In this video, I'm gonna rank every single high fire rate weapon in Fortnite history from worst to best. But how am I determining what weapons are considered to have a high fire rate? Well, those with a fire rate above 10, that being 10 rounds per second, which equates to about 600 rounds per minute. I did the testing myself and I found that 10 was the perfect number to capture only the true highest fire rate weapons. With that being said, we've got some honorable mentions before we start this video. These weapons just missed this list. That's going to be the Foundation's MK7 Assault Rifle, that's a fire rate of 9.5. The Combat AR with a fire rate of 9. The OG Tech 9 SMG with 9. The Lawless Accelerant Hollow Twister, which I couldn't reliably find the fire rate anywhere on the internet when it's fully charged, so I don't even know. And then the Pump and Dump, because the SMG portion has a fire rate of 10. That's all for the honorable mentions. That's all for this intro. Let's finally get into this video. But real quick, use code TYFRYZ in the Fortnite item shop when you get the chance. But all right, let's get into this. At number 31 is going to be the Plasma Burst Laser with a fire rate of 11. You might be saying, well, how does it have a fire rate? It doesn't shoot actual bullets. Well, that's because with the straight laser beam weapons, the fire rate goes off of, the damage that's being ticked. And those damage ticks equate to a fire rate of 11 rounds per second. So, of course, that means it can be on this list. And these ones towards the bottom of the list, I'm just going to kind of blow through because, yeah, we've got a ton of weapons on this list. I don't want this video to be half an hour long. Plasma Burst Laser is just not good. And the exact same thing holds true at number 30 for the Chimera Ray Gun, which has a fire rate in its mythic version of 16. It's a great fire rate. It just doesn't equal a good weapon, right? And that's what you're going to see with the weapons at the bottom of this list, right? A high fire rate does not automatically make a weapon good. There's a lot of other factors to consider, and this weapon is just not going to get it done. And similarly, at number 29 is Bender's Shiny Metal Ray Gun with a fire rate of 15. Again, yeah, no surprise here. These laser beam-like weapons are just not good. They're not really desirable, and it shouldn't be a surprise that all three are in the bottom 3 spots of this list. Bender's Shiny Metal Ray Gun is on top just because it purely out DPSs the other weapons, and that's really the only reason why. But for our first true bullet weapon on this list, at number 28 is the Charge SMG with a fire rate of 16. I hate the Charge SMG. The charge mechanic does not work on a gun that needs to shoot multiple bullets quickly in a row. It works for the shotgun, which shoots one shot. It works for snipers like the railgun. It works for pistols like the plasma cannon. It does not work for an SMG. It's a horrible idea. I never want to use this weapon ever again. Let's just move on. And number 27 is the Makeshift SMG, just making it on this list with a fire rate of 10. Unfortunately, the makeshift weapons are just not good. They were not designed to be good. But yes, I can confidently say I would rather use the Makeshift SMG than the Charge SMG, and that's not something I can say about a lot of makeshift weapons. So yeah, I guess credit to the Makeshift SMG for once. And number 26 is the lock-on pistol with a fire rate of 15, right? That fire rate is referring to once you're actually locked onto somebody, not the non-lock-on fire rate. It is such a difficult weapon for me to rank, right? Because it excels one of the best weapons in Fortnite history at this one section of the game, and that is when somebody's gliding. When somebody's gliding and they cannot protect themselves, this thing is unbelievable. And you've got to remember, I come from a build's point of view. So other than when someone's gliding, the lock-on pistol for me just doesn't really work. In zero build, I can see why the lock-on pistol would be unbelievable, right? So just keep that in mind when I talk about specific weapons. I am mainly ranking these as somebody who plays build mode. At number 25 is going to be the Machine SMG with a fire rate of 14. Now, this weapon has some of the craziest bloom I have ever seen in my life. I'll be honest with you, I really don't like the Machine SMG, but at the end of the day, with any of these super high fire rate weapons, like I'm talking once you get to like 14, 15 plus, if you just jump into somebody's box, you're essentially just going to gun them down. At number 24 is the CR2 Blaster from Galactic Battle with a fire rate of 12.5. I hated this weapon. I thought this was one of the worst weapons in Galactic Battle. It is literally just a rapid fire SMG, but worse in every single statistic. Worse fire rate, worse magazine size, worse DPS, worse damage. Literally everything about this is just worse than the rapid fire SMG. I think this weapon is not good at all. At number 23 are the dual micro SMGs with a fire rate of 14. I'm interested to see how this one is going to land in the comment section. I don't really know what people think about this weapon. Obviously, it was only in one season, Chapter 5, Season 4, and we haven't seen it since. I wasn't crazy about it, honestly. Like, I feel like any of those seasons where you've got the Gatekeeper, there's really no need to carry any other close-range weapon. Of course, this is a super close-range weapon, and especially when you've got everyone running around in jetpacks, I don't really know about this weapon. If it were to come back today, I think it would get a little bit more usage, but in Chapter 5, Season 4, just not the weapon for me. At number 22 is the Hyper SMG. I'm going to include Valeria's Hyper SMG on this list list as well in this spot, even though it's got some different attachments. Since I'm mainly talking about the fire rates of these weapons, I'm just going to keep it together to keep it simple, and that goes for almost all these spots on this list. The mythics will be included with their base placement. This weapon's got a fire rate of 12. I was never crazy about the Hyper SMG. I always thought it was one of the weaker SMGs in Chapter 5, and were you going to take this or a Thunderburst SMG in Chapter 5 Season 1? No question. You ain't taking this one, I'll tell you that much. At number 21 is the Veiled Precision SMG with a fire rate of 10.3. Honestly, I didn't feel like this weapon had that fast of a fire rate, but I guess it does. It was good, and then they nerfed it to give it a bunch more recoil, and in its current state in Chapter 6 Season 4, is anybody taking this thing? I am absolutely not. Especially with all the great first-person ARs that have been added to the game. Yeah, I'm just not going to take it. It does have value, though, because it has a fast fire rate, so at close range, it's still going to be good, and then even at those longer ranges, it is a first-person hit scan weapon that will always have value. Number 20 is the Harbinger SMG with a fire rate of 10. I was never the biggest fan of this weapon. That's because the longer that you held the trigger, the more recoil the weapon would get. That just doesn't make sense for an SMG. The only reason why it's this high up on the list is because if you use this weapon like it's supposed to be used and only at close quarters and only in somebody's box, it is really, really good. It's got great damage and obviously a great fire rate. But as soon as you start getting to those middle ranges and you're going to be holding down the trigger, the recoil just gets out of control. At number 19 is the Surge Fire SMG. Of course, it has a fire rate when it's fully charged up, right? I'm not talking about its fire rate when it's not fully charged. Again, I'm just kind of on this weapon, right? And how do you rank it? Do you rank it on this list in particular when its fire rate is at its peak, or just the weapon as a whole? That will definitely affect where you would place this on this list. At number 18 is the Eradicator Shadow Precision SMG with a fire rate of 10.4. This is, of course, the exotic version of the Veiled Precision, and it's basically the exact same weapon. Doesn't really function that differently, except the fact that you get the recon when you hit somebody. It'll mark them. That's a good ability, and for me, it deserves to be a couple of spots higher than just the base version of the Veiled. At number 17 is the regular submachine gun with a fire rate of 11. I'm talking about the MP5 looking submachine gun. I feel like this is where the list turns over, right? This is where you're now starting to get into some really usable weapons. All the weapons up to this point, I would say, are decent, but they're not your go-to option for close quarters in Fortnite. But I would say the SMG fits that role, right? It's just a really balanced submachine gun. It does nothing fancy, it just gets the job done, and that's what it needs to do. At number 16 is going to be the P90 with a fire rate of 10. This is the compact SMG, and again, another weapon that gets the job done. This one is a little bit more geared towards ultra close quarters because that damage fall off and that bloom increase once you start getting a little bit further from your opponent is absolutely brutal. You'll see yourself hitting for 8 damage with this thing. But again, another SMG that gets the job done. Number 15 is the Heisted Run and Gun SMG with a fire rate of 11. Of course, this is just the exotic version of the P90, which will reload 2 bullets a second once you are sprinting with it and will give you infinite sprint when you are holding the weapon out. Of course, just naturally, it makes sense to put it one spot higher than its base version, the regular P90. At number 14 is the Primal SMG. I guarantee you did not see this one coming because you guys know I hate Chapter 2 Season 6, but the Primal SMG is really good with a fire rate of 10. In case you didn't know, this thing actually out DPSs a P90 with actually significantly more accuracy and only 5 bullets less, right? It's got 35. This is a really, really good SMG, right? Like, I would take this SMG over a lot of other ones in Fortnite history. I'm a huge fan of this thing. Maybe it's just because all the other weapons in Chapter 2 Season 6 were so bad that this one just stood out as being incredible, but let me know your guys' thoughts on this one in the comment section down below. At number 13 is the Rapid Fire SMG with a fire rate of 15. It is one of the highest fire rate weapons in Fortnite history, and you absolutely feel that when you use this weapon. You burn through bullets, your bullets will leak through builds. Cypher PK, I remember back in the day, used to make videos all the time about how the Rapid Fire SMG is so underrated. It's one of the best guns in the game. I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but I would say in the right hands, this thing is definitely underrated. Absolutely. At number 12 is the regular minigun with a fire rate of 12. You know, I didn't really know where to rank the minigun on this list. It's always such a difficult weapon to rank for me. Its mythic versions that are different than it will definitely be higher up on this list. The base version it's okay, right? I think this is a fair spot for on this list. At number 11 is the Stinger SMG with a fire rate of 12. And in Gunner's Stinger SMG, you have one of the highest DPS weapons in Fortnite history, surpassing that 270 mark. That is unbelievable. Of course, you've got to deal with with that recoil, and this weapon has a ton of it, but it has great structure damage as well, right? So the Stinger doesn't have a ton to complain about. As long as you can control that recoil, you're going to have a good time, and you're going to see another weapon very similar to that higher up on this list. At number 10 is the Collateral Damage Assault Rifle with a fire rate of 12. You know, the Collateral Damage AR I was never a big fan of, and I think that's because I was trying to use it as an assault rifle. If this thing was named the Collateral Damage SMG, I think a lot of people would like it a lot more, because that's how you have to play. You have to treat this thing as a sub, close quarters only, use it to follow up your shotgun, and you're going to find a ton of success with it, and I'm officially a Collateral Damage AR fan. At number 9 is the Sideways Minigun. So this is a tough one, right? Because when it's not charged, the fire rate is only 7. But when it is charged, the fire rate is 13. So of course, I got to put it on this list somewhere. When it is not charged, it is not a great weapon. Honestly, it would probably be in the 20s on this list. But when it is charged up and you get that hyper accurate, insane damage, unbelievable fire rate, that gives you a DPS of 312, right? If you surpass that 300 mark, you are in elite category. Of course, you guys can see why this was such a difficult one for me to rank today. At number 8 is a brand new weapon. It is the Lead Spitter 3000 from Chapter 6, Season 4 with a fire rate of 45 when it is charged. It is by far the highest fire rate weapon in Fortnite history. I don't see anything ever surpassing this. That's right, guys, 45 bullets a second. Of course, you are only doing 5 damage a shot, right? That's going to equate to a DPS around those mid 200, high 200 area with one of the slowest reload speeds literally for any weapon ever. You know what you're getting with the Lead Spitter. You're getting 300 bullets in a mag. You are just spraying for 10 seconds in a row with your finger on the trigger, and it was not good on launch, but after it got a bunch of buffs, right, where they buffed the recoil, they buffed the structure damage, they buffed the magazine size, they did a bunch to this weapon to now make it, actually, I would consider a pretty good weapon. At the very least, better than the regular minigun, which is why it is higher than that weapon on this list today. At number 7 is the Twin Mag SMG with a fire rate of 13. I love this weapon. I think this is one of the best SMGs in Fortnite history, and its only problem is that magazine size, right? For a weapon that has a fire rate of 13 to have a magazine size of only 20, you're going to find yourself reloading all the time. Of course, that is by design. That is why you get the faster reload every other one. I love the Twin Mag SMG. It's one of those weapons that I'm probably going to take most of the time when I find it on the ground. And of course, that is absolutely the case with the Blink Mag SMG with a fire rate of course, 13. That's because it's just the exotic version of the Twin Mag, so that is why it's just one spot higher than it. The Blink Mag effect is good. It's not great. Doesn't really change the weapon up a ton for me. That's why it's just one spot higher than it. At number 5 is the Combat SMG with a fire rate of 12. This used to be the best weapon in Fortnite history. Like, I'm just going to say it, on launch, this was the best weapon we ever saw. You could 4-tap somebody with an SMG. A headshot was doing 50 damage with a weapon that has a fire rate of 12. That is absolutely unbelievable. Then they gave it a ton of recoil. If you use it now, this thing just shoots straight up to the moon when you use it. But as long as you maintain that recoil, this thing is an unbelievable weapon. It is so good and easily inside my top 5. At number 4 is the Tactical SMG. This is the good version of the TAC sub with a fire rate of 13, right? The original version, not the trash one that they made in Chapter 2. People tend to forget that this weapon, its legendary version when it came out in Season X, has a DPS of 3 less than the mythic Combat SMG, right? 273 as opposed to 276. But this weapon had significantly less recoil. It literally has like no recoil. And this weapon just doesn't get talked about enough, right? This is genuinely one of the best SMGs in Fortnite history. I think it is better than the Combat SMG. Of course, in its current state, it's not, but the good version of the TAC SMG, the best we ever saw it, is unbelievable. At number 3 is Brutus's minigun with a fire rate of 12. There's no surprise it is this high up on the list. Brutus's minigun was an absolute tank in Chapter 2, Season 2. If you saw it on the ground, you're 100% going to take it. It's a weapon that you're never going to leave behind, right? And so, of course, it's got to be high up on this list. And I think the top 3 is a fair spot for it. But of course, we've got 2 weapons ahead of it, or technically 3. That's because at my number 2 spot is 2 weapons. It's Snoop Dogg's drum gun and OG Midas's drum gun. They're the exact same weapon, exact same stats, both a fire rate of 10, damage of 25 a shot. That gives you a DPS of 250. It's incredible. They are incredible weapons. I think that they were the best mythics in Chapter 2, Season 2. Of course, Snoop Dogg's was in Chapter 2 Remix, but you get what I'm saying. These weapons single-handedly made it so that you didn't have to carry a shotgun. And any weapon that can do that is got to be high up on this list. Of course, it is. But for me, the best high fire rate weapon in Fortnite history is RG's minigun with a fire rate of 12. And of course, it has the same damage numbers as Brutus's minigun, but takes significantly longer to cool down. Brutus's minigun on its own was already very good, and you somehow buff it. For me, that buff is enough to push it over Midas's drum gun. I'm not really sure why in Chapter 2 Remix, some of the weapons they brought back, but then just slightly changed them, and then some of them, like Snoop Dogg's drum gun, they brought back and then made it the exact same as the Chapter 2 Season 2 weapons. I don't know why they did that. I'm not complaining, right? RG's minigun was absolutely insane. It was the best gun in Chapter 2 Remix, and of course, in my opinion, the best high fire rate weapon in Fortnite history. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you feel like there's anything I missed. There's nowhere on the internet I can go and just sort through every high fire rate weapon. I will look through every single individual weapon and tallied up the ones with fire rates of 10. But if I forgot anything, please let me know in the comment section and I'll let you know where it would rank on this list. If you did go on to enjoy this video, consider subscribing. By the time you're watching this video, hopefully we are extremely close to 100,000 subs. And I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace.